I have no idea how people sit like this. I am cross-legged right now and it is painful. Yeah. I'm not sure if loneliness is really the topic for me to be talking about today because I'm constantly surrounded by love and attention. And I don't know, I'm just like not the lonely type. Do you know what I mean? No, just kidding. So yeah, hi, welcome back to the Nether Region podcast, and I am your host, a Tommy Boy Nethersole. Yeah, thanks for being here. It's been on a little bit of a hiatus. Just kidding. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to pretend that we were consistent and that nothing was going on. And yeah, there were no technical difficulties, no dramas. Welcome back. Yeah, let's roll the intro. Yeah, welcome back. Why did I choose loneliness as the topic for today's episode? That's a great question, Tom, and I'll answer it for you now. Yeah. The reason that I wanted to talk about loneliness and I felt like it was the perfect topic for this week's episode was because I feel like that is what I've been dealing with the most within the last couple weeks. And I think that, sorry, I'm really puffed. I just went on a massive walk and it's really humid outside. So if you see me sweating or hear me panting, that's why. But yeah, I feel like the thing that has been on my mind the most and the thing that I've been dealing with the most within the last week or so has been loneliness and, how that affects my motivation levels and my inspiration and my productivity and just the things that I'm doing. And I feel like right now is a time where I am just flooded with, I don't know, within the last week, I feel like I've just been flooded with so much love and affection and all these things that I'm just so grateful for. And I was saying this to a friend the other day that I feel like I'm just being flooded with so many new people and opportunities and, being given so much attention and a little bit of fame and all of this. But even though my life is has been quite hectic and a lot of wild stuff has been happening at the moment, it can feel like it's only happening to me. And I feel like because all of these amazing wild things are happening to me, it feels a bit lonely in that way, if that makes sense. To have these amazing things happening is obviously incredible, but they're only happening to me. And I feel like as much as people may be able to relate or support or, offer their own guidance and experience, I feel like a lot of the time, whether it's with loneliness or with a lot of things, other people's experience and stuff isn't always as helpful because they're looking at it through a retrospective kind of perspective, if that makes sense. And, they're looking at it as something that they've already overcome. And it seems very easy to look back on things and fix them when you've already been through it. And I don't know, there's not that same connection or feeling in it. I'm not sure if I'm making a lot of sense, but I think right now I've just moved down to Melbourne, and moving to Melbourne from the country, I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of change that, fuels this feeling of loneliness and these feelings of, going through something by yourself, regardless of how many people you're surrounded by, regardless of how many new people you're being introduced to and becoming friends with and all these new experiences. And I think because I've been surrounded by such an abundance of, love and connection recently, it makes the moments where I am alone or by myself, it makes those moments feel more isolating. And, it makes those moments where in the past I might have felt completely fine being by myself and, just being surrounded by my own company. It makes those moments feel a bit more isolated and a bit more lonely because I've just been given an abundance of just love and appreciation and just just all these incredible things that I really, really cherish, all this attention and just friendship, connection, being surrounded by that. And then, the contrast of them being alone is very, 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 very wild. And I feel like that's what has fueled the feelings of loneliness just a little bit. But in saying that, I don't really feel that lonely. I don't know. And I feel like that's why I wanted to talk about it today and why, I started writing notes about this topic because I thought it was very interesting that in a time where I had been talking to the most people, and like the most people had been reaching out and, congratulating me on whether it was like my debut song being released or whether it was about like Australian Idol being on that. Like all these incredible things that were going on in my life, like all these people reaching out. Regardless of that, I was like still feeling, quite isolated. However, I'm someone who historically and like even now I feel like I just thrive and I really cherish my alone time. But I think the difference that I've found and the difference between alone time in the past and the alone time that I've been having recently is the fact that in the past it's usually been quite intentional alone time, time by myself, and it's a time where I'm focusing on that time being for myself, and it's intentionally for myself. I am canceling other plans or saying no to other things, or not reaching out to other people. I'm just, this is the time for me. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna work on me. I'm gonna work on my craft. I'm gonna work on whatever. And I think that there's a difference between being by yourself and being alone or feeling lonely. And for me, it's, I'm trying to read my note right now. It's, for me, it's acquiring the intention to focus on, what will serve me and make me feel good. And I think trying to find that balance, or trying to find that drive, and setting setting aside the time to actually be with my thoughts and my feelings and, whatever I'm feeling at that moment. Because I'm a very sensitive boy, which is like that I'm coming to terms with more and more, or just starting to realize more and more as I interact with more people and as I, just have more experiences and have just more like input from other people, or more feedback or more criticism. And just like, I feel like very, very sensitive to any form of critique or feedback, even if it's like good feedback, or like even if I know the person has no idea what they're talking about. I feel like at times I'm a bit too receptive to what people say, which is not always the best. But I feel like I'm just a very sensitive person who takes on a lot of what people say and a lot of the criticism. And I think, even if it's something that I know that I'm confident in, because I think sometimes when people get criticism and they don't take it very well, it's because it's something that they're insecure with already. And, that person criticizing that thing is only reinforcing what they already believe or what they've already thought about. And that's why it's like, it cuts deep, because it's something that they've already thought about themselves and now it's confirmed by the other person. But for me, when people criticize or they have feedback about, something I've said or some work I've put out or something like this, any feedback like that, even if it's something that I'm confident with, like my music, or whether it's with my photography or my video process, or just all the creative projects I'm doing, like if it's something that I'm like really, really confident in my abilities and my skills, I still like take on their feedback really, really, I get really impacted by it, which is like quite interesting. I feel like that goes against what it's like for a lot of other people. But for me recently, I'm trying to, back to the topic, I'm trying to appreciate that time by myself, and being grateful for the moments that I am socializing, and knowing that those moments won't always be there, and that there'll be times when I'm alone there'll be times when I'm alone, and I feel like I just need to be grateful for the times where I'm out socializing. I think that can be true for everyone. When we're in moments where we're out, it can feel very easy to be swept up and think this is like incredible, or, maybe you don't think it's incredible. Maybe you think like this is really, really stressful. And just knowing that nothing is permanent can be reassuring, but it can also be quite stressful, to know that. But for me, it's about being present. And I think this whole thing with being alone or having time by myself where, I've just felt a bit lost and not had a lot of guidance. I feel like it's very easy for me to get in my head or be focusing on a million things that I could be doing, or, the a million things that I'm feeling. I think I've just been like really, really panicked and stressed lately, but weirdly about nothing. And I think, I'm not sure if your body does this too, but like sometimes my body just responds in a way that's like, oh, we're going to be stressed now. Like something is really, really stressful. And in my mind, I'm like, there's nothing that like I can think of that's like that big of a stressor right now, but it's really taking a toll on, my functioning, which is just like so interesting and like debilitating, and just like so interesting how our bodies can sometimes dictate the way that we're feeling, or like the stress that we're feeling. Yeah. So my way to combat that is to try and just be present, and whether it's looking at something and trying to describe it to yourself to try and make yourself present, or trying to pick out three things that you can see, two things that you can hear, whatever that thing is, and like one thing you can smell, one thing you can feel, like trying to be present with all my senses and trying to calm my body down, and doing the breathing exercise and stuff like that. Even like when I'm not stressed and just want to be a bit more present, I feel like that's something that I'm continuously trying to hone in on and trying to achieve. But I think another thing that really interested me or intrigued me, or solidified me choosing loneliness as a kind of topic for today's conversation, is that like loneliness is one of the deadliest things. And I feel like I talked about this when I was talking about the importance of connection with friendship, in the first podcast episode. The importance of connection and the deadly nature of loneliness is like so profound, based on the fact that I watched this TED Talk once where they talked about these mice who became addicted to substances quite easily when they weren't surrounded by other mice, but when they were in this big environment with lots of mice to interact with, and they had a community and they had all this, they almost never chose the water that was laced with some kind of illicit substance, and instead they just like drank the normal water and ate the normal food, which is so interesting. Which I've brought it up again. I've talked about mice twice now on this show. But yeah, loneliness is like, it's also one of the deadliest thing for its effects on mental health and anxiety and depression, and the way that it influences suicidal thoughts on so many people, and people feeling alone and feeling like they have no one to reach out to, or no support. And I think that's why community and connection is so important. And I think whether it's being part of a football club, or whether you're part of a theatre group, or part of some initiatives within school, or it's just surrounding yourself with like a really good group of people that you feel really comfortable just like expressing how you feel and not feeling like a burden anytime you bring up a problem, but also just not burdening others with your problem. I think creating a community and a network and a group of people that really support you and you support them, and it's just very reciprocal. I feel like something like that is so important for connection and avoiding loneliness and avoiding these things like mental health illnesses as a result of loneliness. But the other day when I was writing the notes and conceptualizing like, oh, what would I talk about if I did an episode on loneliness? I was feeling just like very wasn't feeling present at all, was just totally just like in my head. My body was stressing out. I was like, okay, I'm going to grab my book. I'm going to look really, really intelligent. I haven't read more than a chapter of this book, and I've had it for a good 3 months. And I, went for a walk and explored around my new place, and like in the park and down by the water, and just like, I took my notebook and, I sat in the shade, and, just to be outside and be surrounded by people was such a nice way to, feel connected to a community more, especially one that I'm not as accustomed to or as involved in. And I think that's something for me as well. Like coming from a country town where I felt very, very involved within the community, whether it was, with the sporting clubs or with the theatre clubs, or whether it was doing performances or art projects or working with the council on different videos or working with businesses there. Like, I feel like leaving leaving that and leaving the school community and the wider community, feel like that's a massive change to then go to a place where you're not surrounded by a lot of people that you know. So I feel like going down and going for that walk and, sitting in the shade and writing in my notebook and taking my book and just like low-key eavesdropping on people, and, hearing their conversations and just like respectfully people watching. It was like a nice way to just remind yourself of like the fact that like we're all just people, and like, I don't know, that sounds really dumb, but just like seeing people interact is just so wholesome, and like the little awkward things that people do, just seeing that and reminding ourselves that like we're human is just so interesting. But yeah, I feel like just witnessing people being human is so beautiful, and I feel like, yeah, I saw a woman practicing like her speech for some presentation, and I'll never know how it went, but it was like so interesting to see like a glimpse into their life and, being connected just in that moment. But when I was watching the people, whether it was intentional or not, I realized that people just radiate a desperation for connection. Everybody wants to be connected, no matter what. And, no matter what, people want attention. And even if they don't think so, I think everybody yearns for attention. And there's people that always say, oh, I don't want attention. I don't want to be the center of attention. Maybe they're introverted. But so often do they still crave a different kind of attention. And it's usually maybe it's a one-on-one attention. Maybe it's the attention of someone you really care about, or like a friend, or just the devoted attention of one person listening to you and having that conversation. Maybe you don't want the attentions of thousands of people where you're the center of attention, everyone's looking and, judging, and, there's a spotlight on you. But maybe you want the attention of just one person in a quiet room, like talking to them. I think attention is one of those very real human desires, and very, very integral and evolutionary desires of humans. Yeah, I feel like even if they don't want that attention, they just want someone genuinely listening to them. And in that same moment that I was thinking that everyone wants attention, a question came into my head, and it was, is judgment still connection? And this kind of comes back to me talking about criticism and me taking people's criticism on like really, 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 really hard and like very close to home. But the question of who's texting me? I'm so popular. Is judgment connection? And I kind of decided that I think it is. I think judgment is a form of connection, because although it's maybe not the connection that you desire and, the kind of connection that you hope for, judgment from someone is inherently them perceiving your thoughts or beliefs or your behavior or clothes, them perceiving, your appearance or your body, and, connecting what you present to them, and connecting what you present to them to their own perceived beliefs of what is right and good. And I think when I was, thinking about this question, I was thinking that, that process of assessing whether a person's presentation aligns with your morals is a form of connection. And I'll give you an example. Like, if I see someone walking down the street and I see them wearing like, I don't want to give a specific example. If I see them wearing like a blue collared shirt and straight leg pants and like brown leather shoes, like it's giving Wall Street. It's giving, I study commerce at Melbourne Uni. It's giving, this is so shady. It's giving straight cis white boy, and that's coming from me. So, them presenting that to me, even though I might judge them, which I wouldn't, stop it, even though I might judge them for the way that, they're dressing and thinking that, oh, that's like really boring, like kind of making an assumption on the person that they are, even though I might be judging them, I feel like me looking at what they're wearing, I'm connecting that to what I think is boring, what I think people should wear. I'm connecting it to myself. So I feel like the process of judging is really just assessing whether someone's presentation or appearance or thoughts or beliefs or, you know, inherent morals align with yours. And, you know, putting those two things together, what people present to you and what you believe, is 100% a form of connection, whether it's intentional or, you know, whether it's conscious or not. Because I think when they see something that they don't like, and you know, whether they don't like the way that you act or the way that you dress, they are connecting what you do with what they don't like about themselves or what they believe isn't right. I think that's connection. You know, that connection, whether, even if it's projection, is... Oh, I lost what I was going to say. That's connection. They might be projecting their own ideas onto you, but then projecting onto you is still them connecting what they believe onto you, or the way that they view themselves onto you. So I think that, yeah, that's something to think about. But I also think that loneliness causes people to do crazy things. And I think that's another reason why loneliness is such like an interesting topic to talk about, because it causes people to do such crazy things. You know, it causes people to possibly like seek people out who aren't good for them. If you're in a lonely state, you might be reaching out to an old partner, an old ex. You might be, you know, going on the apps, or you might be like, oh, stalking their profile or something like that. You know, you might fall in love with AI or something like that if you're really lonely. I saw a video of that recently, and I was like, wow, the cause of this is someone being incredibly lonely. Now they've fallen in love with like an AI woman that they've created, and like the cause of that was someone feeling lonely. And you know, loneliness might cause you to post certain things for attention. You know, it's such a catalyst for action and people doing things that they otherwise wouldn't do if they were in a state where, you know, they felt supported and connected to other people. But I think that loneliness can also lead to such great things. And I think without feelings of loneliness, we wouldn't have, you know, certain pieces of art or film, or we wouldn't have certain pieces of music that make us feel so deeply and that really resonate with us. I think because loneliness is such an inherent human feeling, us experiencing it and artists experiencing it and then putting that into their work and, you know, conveying that makes us feel so seen. So although they may have made the art in a really lonely state, the action of them making art about them being lonely is making people feel seen and supported and inherently connected, because they see that someone else is also going through the same thing. So I feel like that's a way that loneliness can be a really beautiful thing. You know, it can cause people to create inventions that better our lives that we use every single day. But I think that one thing that I learned, well, I was trying to read my notes. Oh, that's right. There's this one thing that I learned in class once, and I think it was about songwriting, or it might have been about like poetry or something like that. It's that literature and music and art often comes from a place of not having. And I thought that was really interesting, because like so often do songs or pieces of art, or, you know, these really romantic novels or all this stuff, a lot of the time it comes from a place of not having the thing that you're writing about. You know, you might be writing a love song wishing that you were in love with them, or, you know, you might be in a really bad spot financially, so you're writing, you know, a book about someone who's in that same position, and then they, you know, get themselves out of it. I think a lot of the time not having something and the optimism and the hope of that changing and you one day acquiring it causes a lot of artists to put that into their work. And when people don't have, they write. When people don't have something, they imagine what it would be like to have it, and that goes into their creative work. And, you know, whether that is love, or whether it's, you know, connection, or whether it's fame, or, you know, whether it's all these different things, it comes from a deep human instinct to express desire. Yeah. Because when I'm trying to just read my note here again. When we don't have something, we write about it, hoping it will manifest, or just so that we can imagine what it's like. That's very true, Past Tom. You're so right. But all in all, I think that loneliness can be misery, but it can also be the source of some of the most deeply influential art. So I think in the moments where we do feel lonely, I think it's important to not squander that feeling, but really try and feel and notice the way that our body reacts to that. You know, whether it's our gut just feeling empty, or whether it's it feeling really tired, or whether our eyebrows feel really furrowed when we're lonely, or whether we just feel extremely tired and sluggish, or if our bodies are feeling just like really hot and just like clammy. I think trying to recognize how our bodies react, and then also just recognizing our thought behaviors when we're in those states and sitting in it and recognizing it is, in my eyes and through my experience, the best way to try and overcome it and, you know, get through those periods. Because when you try and fight mental struggles or these feelings, it only prolongs it, and it only causes there to be quick fixes, which is a hard process and thing to learn. But as I was talking about at the start, I had been, and honestly, like, still kind of am feeling like a little bit lonely, even though I'm surrounded by so many amazing people and just like so many incredible experiences right now. I just have felt a little isolated, feeling like no one knows what I'm going through, even though a lot of the things are like really good things. Does that make sense? But because of that, on one of my first nights that I was staying in my place here, my new place, I was home alone, and there's this old piano that's high key out of tune out there. And that I decided that, like, I just started playing around with it, and I was actually playing Build-A-Bear, my debut single on it. Weird promo. But I started writing a song, and without even me trying to like write a song about the way I was feeling, I was just playing chords and singing some melodies. And, you know, when I started just like freestyling some lyrics and melodies over the top of these chords, I ended up writing a song, and at the moment it's called Meant to Be Alone, but I'm not sure if that will be the name. But yeah, no one has really heard it yet, but about 10 minutes ago when I was walking back home from a walk, I was like, maybe I should perform the song on the podcast, and then it's like exclusive for you beautiful people who listen. And then you kind of know the song, and I feel like it comes back to what we've been talking about this whole time. So yeah, I wrote. Am I going to perform it? I think I should perform it. I'll pop the audio at the end here for if you're driving at the moment, or you're washing up dishes, or, you know, you're in the shower or something. You can listen to this as the kind of end to the podcast. You know, maybe it'll end perfectly as you pull into the driveway, or pull into work or school or something. But yeah, I wrote this song when I wasn't feeling very, very connected or supported, and I was just trying to, I think, make people stay around instead of having these moments where I was really connected to people and around so many supportive people, and then in those moments where there wasn't many people. So yeah, I decided to write this song to try and be like, can you stay like forever? Because I don't think I'm meant to be alone, because I've got so many thoughts in my head. And yeah, I'm worried what's going to happen if I'm left alone for too long in a state where I'm not healthy. So yeah, I'm going to play it for you right now. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Mwah. You're really sexy, and please take care of yourself. Do something nice for yourself today. Here you go. This is Meant to Be Alone by Tom Nethersole, exclusive besties. Also, by the way, before this starts, this is a demo. This is not the final version, but I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, bye. Mwah.
I don't think I'm meant to be alone. Left right here with my thoughts at home, with no one to hold. All my fears crashing me down in this state. A friendship, oh, it ended eight. Prolonged denial, it's been a while. 'Cause I've been falling off and waiting here, thinking that I'll change next year. But I'm still the mess I am. We don't share an address or tram. So please give me a minute to take a breath and I'll be gone. I have never felt so small. Please give me a minute to explain myself to you. No matter what I do, please just be patient. I'm not one for chasing stars, but I found myself on Mars. So please stay in my orbit. If you need space, then I'll be here. I've heard we meet once a year. Life in I've done it again. I've upset my father's mind, 'cause I didn't speak mine. At least that's what I gathered. Reactions never matter, it's just pain. Temper short, remember more than I should. His stubborn thoughts say more than I don't meet him at the airport. In the viewing area I'll wait. Watch planes I wish would take me up with a man who's not a maid. I wanted to just